But what do you say to the good men and women who are watching our show this evening, listening to you talk? What do you say to them about getting involved in politics when they say, well, I don't want to get involved in politics, it's dirty, or it won't make any difference, or I don't have time? What do you say to those good people?
I say to them that if you don't get involved, somebody else will. And the things that you want to see or believe in will be done by somebody else, whether it's for you or against your philosophy. And if you don't get involved, then the thing you always hear is they and them that's doing something to me. They and them. Mm-hmm. And my question always is, who are the theys and who are the thems? They got to have some names. Mm-hmm. So who are they? And the thing about that that's really sad is the fact that I don't have time. I don't want to be bothered. The only way you really get anybody's attention in politics is when you get in their back pocket. You get them in the pocketbook and they'll come out. Some of them will, but then everybody has something to say about a politician, but not much about the political actions of politicians, but they can't even name the politicians that they are familiar with or the proposition they're familiar with, because here in this town, you'd be surprised if you ask people who the mayor is. They may know that, but they couldn't tell you who the mayor pro tem is, or they can't name 3 people on the council, or they can't name who represents them in the district. They live in the county. They don't know who that county person is. If you ask them, did they vote? Oh yeah, I voted. Well, who did you vote for? And so they may name that they voted for a party, basically, a Republican or a Democrat, et cetera, and so forth. But I think the only real times that we see anybody voting for names would be in a non-partisan election, such as the city, because you don't have any party to follow then. But I am really amazed at how many people don't vote. We have less than 50% of the people registered to vote in almost every election, sometimes around the 20s and 30s, and that's ridiculous.
What would you suggest to the mom or the grandma or the dad or even the college student who's watching us this evening? What would you suggest? How should they get involved in the community politics or state politics?
Well, the thing is, everyone should realize that politics is involved in everything we do.
It's involved in everything we do.
Everything we do. From I used to say from the cradle to the grave, but now it's postnatal to even the cemetery. After that, everything's involved in politics. And it is. We are just so much dependent upon government, which we should never have done. But people don't like to do things for themselves anymore. And the basic thing you'll hear, let the government do it. Let's let the government do it. Somebody else needs to do what I ought to be doing. And that's where, but see, we've lost a lot of things in schools, in our curriculum about history, what made the country what it is. Very few people can recite the preamble to the Constitution or the Bill of Rights. And so nobody knows where we've been coming from when we start to talk about government, why we have government, and why we have courts, the court system, et cetera, so forth. Most people are familiar with the courts only from one standpoint, and that's if it's a lawsuit or something to do with a civil case or one of a criminal case. And that's about all we know about it.
How do we explain that lack of knowledge or information when we have the most powerful tools for communication that our mankind has ever known?
Well, we're not taught it anymore. And that's the thing that's missing. For instance, not too long ago, I asked a youngster to type something for me. He said, type? What do you mean type? I said, do you know how to use a typewriter? What's a typewriter? And little do they realize even the computer board that they're using has the same keyboard that we have. Home row is still there on this same unit now that it's computerized. Well, I don't need to learn how to spell anymore because I got a spell check that tells me I spelled it wrong. I just spelled the word wrong. Well, if everything's going to be done for us, is there any need to get any further education? Is there any need to expand our minds? And it's very sad that when you go to a grocery store, or let's say we go to McDonald's and you order something, and they're punching it up on the register and getting upset. There's actually pictures of hamburgers and French fries and malts and shakes on those keys that they punch. And it adds it up for them. It sends it back to the kitchen to be for the order to be filled, it tells them how much it costs, and it tells them how much change to give you back. But as far as making change for a $10 bill, they can't do it. Computers go down, the business goes down. Education, I mean, it's all gone. In their mind, they can hardly add 4 plus 5. They can't anymore. And the day they started be able to carry computers in their back pockets to do their figuring, is we lost a lot of that.
Sure, sure.
So, but that was the thing, I think, that made us the people that we were as far as education is concerned, to be able to think, to be able to do, to be able to figure things out. But now we want to let some machine do it because it's too much trouble. Well, your mind is not expanding, we're not going anywhere, and so actually we're dumbing down.
We're dumbing down.
And that's what bothers me more than anything else. That's the reason that things that we take for granted at our age, and of course I'm a lot older than you are probably, but we don't see these things anymore. We don't study them anymore. So we don't advocate keeping what we got because we don't know what we got. Geography is not studied in schools anymore. They call it social science. But most of the kids can tell me in the school system what state surrounds Illinois. And they can't tell me the capitals of those states that surround it. And you'd be surprised at how many can't tell you how many states there are in the United States,
Sure.
nor name them all in 10 minutes. Or even a half hour, they can't name all 50 states. And it's remarkable that the kids, they'll never be able to name the capitals of those states.
Sure.
And we live in the United States.
Sure. What to do? What's the solution? We know we're identifying the problems. What are the solutions?
We go back to expansion of the minds, and we think the expanded mind is learn how to run a computer and to be able to get information fast and disseminate it. But we're not assimilating it from the individual's point of being able to do things, because somebody's packed it into some tapes or into some computers someplace and so forth. So we punch a button and it gives us this information. But it's like I tell kids when I go to school, everything in here has been built by someone, and more than likely it had a diagram or a blueprint to show it, and somebody had to draw that. The books that you read, somebody had to write those and put them into words and put them in the proper perspective as you're going to read them to learn them. Somebody did this, and so it just didn't show up by itself. But if we don't get back to doing that kind of thinking, then we're still dumbing down. And so I think that's why we're so amazed at the people who are doing this thing, who excel, who said, well, it came out of nowhere, the business started out of a garage or something like that. This was the guy that was able to go back to that philosophy of being able to think for yourself, do for yourself, do the ramifications that needed to bring something forth without having to depend on somebody else to do it. And so consequently, they came up with new businesses, new ways of doing things, and everybody thinks this is such a great thing, but we've always been able to do this. This is what made this country what it was, and is. But if we're going to keep waiting for somebody else to bring it to us, then we'll be on the backside of anything that's going to be in the future for development.
Bill, what one or two things could a viewer do? What first steps could they take to get involved in politics, to be part of their democracy, of their community government?
To make sure, number one is everybody wants something out of life. What is it that you want? How do you make choices? How do you make choices of what religion you'll be? If you go to school, what do you want to major in? What subjects do you take toward majoring in that? And I mean going back into your middle schools and starting to take those subjects on through high school and heading for college. But there's so many of our students who aren't ready for college entrance. That's not even funny. And we got people that are high school graduates that are 6th grade readers. That's pathetic.
I think I heard some statistic in mathematics we're like 36th in the world in terms of academic achievement.
Right. Well, as long as you keep punching the keys and it tells you how much change you give back, how much it costs, how much you give back, where are we going to go from here?
How we as a nation could allow our educational system to deteriorate in this way? I'm talking about from a learning point of view.
Well,
how could that possibly be? How
our
could we
parents
allow
used to
it?
ask us what we wanted to do. What would you like to do when you grow up? And that was one of the constant questions that grown-ups ask youngsters all the time. What do you want to do when you grow up? You want to be I want to be a fireman. I want to be a policeman. I want to be an engineer. And then we got around, I want to be an astronaut, et cetera, and so forth. Well, what subjects do you take? How do you get yourself ready to do this? It just didn't show up and said, I want to fly an airplane, or I want to build a tank or something. You had to have some kind of background to this. So as parents, we start to tell our children, you've got to get ready to do it. What you want is in a book someplace. You've got to study that book and what you want to do. See, the thing about education is that education is a simulation of other people's ideas, philosophies, and trials and tribulations. And you are to take those and formulate your own synopsis from that. And that's where education comes in. And then that's why we have the advancement that we have. But the minute you quit trying to do these kind of things and assimilate that information, then that's when the dumbing down starts.
Yes, yes. Well, Bill, it's been a fascinating conversation. We've identified problems in our community, and the message is get involved and get going, because politics affects every aspect of your life.
Most absolutely.
Bill Oliver, thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me.